So I was browsing X one day, not that X, and I stumbled upon a reply bringing up some Fringe self-help book. Not Fringe to X standards, but as a normal person, I'd never heard of this. I went through it, and I did find a lot of it to be very interesting. Prometheus Rising is a 1983 book which outlines a theory of the brain developed by the late Robert Anton Wilson and his more famous friend, Timothy Leary. In this video, I will be explaining to you the 8-circuit model of consciousness Wilson describes as making up the human mind. These 8 circuits can be divided into 2 halves, 4 easier to understand, more physical, more commonly used circuits everybody is familiar with, and 4 less obvious, more spiritual ones which Leary and Wilson envisioned being more common going into the future. The terrestrial circuits versus the extraterrestrial circuits. Much of what is discussed in this book is antiquated and pseudoscientific. The late Wilson would back me up in telling you not to take everything written here as the 100% truth. He advocated an approach of open thinking and skepticism toward everything, his Wikipedia page saying this about him. His goal was to try to get people into a state of generalized agnosticism, not agnosticism about God, but agnosticism about everything. The 8-circuit model of consciousness is entirely speculative, but that doesn't mean that we can't find it helpful or enlightening or useful. I can only hope that this video compels you to seek out the book for your own reading. And if you don't enjoy reading, then I'll recommend this audio version done by Ali Words. This version has a lot of additional insight and explanation, which was very valuable for my comprehension of this book. So without further ado, let's discuss Circuit 1, the Oral Biosurvival Circuit. That's right, we're going to be dealing with some Freud here. Approximately 3 to 4 billion years old, this first circuit is the bedrock of the brain. It's the most watered-down, essential component to survival, which everything else within the human mind has its roots in. Approach and withdrawal. It's what single-celled organisms, amoeba, are capable of. It's basically just here to keep you alive. The book features an illustration portraying 2 figures, one with an intense, confident biocircuit programming, which seeks out the things it craves, and another with a meek, timid biocircuit programming, allowing the confidently programmed one to get the food. This is the circuit that is imprinted immediately after childbirth, wherein the infant has the option to crawl around and cry, or cuddle with the warmth of the mother. Approach and withdrawal, at this stage, is automatic and unconscious. It's the most basic dichotomy there is to life. The world is composed of nurturing helpful things and noxious dangerous things. The teat, being the first physical, sustaining object which the developing mind can approach, leaves an enormous mental imprint on the developing brain. To illustrate this idea, look at this sort of Junji Ito-looking diagram of the mammal pursuing the life-sustaining breast. Wilson associates excess first-circuit imprinting with many of the famous oral Freudian troubles later in life, such as overeating, obesity, smoking cigarettes, oral sex, gnawing of the knuckles, biting fingernails, etc. Too much first-circuit imprinting can also result in one being infantile or baby-faced, long past the point where these traits are desirable. When such people meet disagreement, they interpret it as a direct threat against their existence, as something which threatens the life-sustaining teat, and as a result, it is horrifying. In the opposite case, with severe negative early imprinting, the result is similar, with one finding terror and crisis where it does not exist. Such individuals often join fringe political movements. In development, he uses the phrase comfort safety zone to describe the safe space associated with the motherly organism, which need not necessarily be the actual mother of the newborn, the attachment emerging alone from proximity, warmth, and curves. As seen in Harry Harlow's metal monkey experiments, this imprinting can effectively occur with a wide range of objects, programming the instincts of warmth and comfort. Wilson goes on to state that the cruciality of that breastfeeding period is the same reason why everyone loves breasts, and the source of human attraction to curved objects in general. Now, this is one of the things that I really enjoy about this book. It's that you often make an assertion like that, and when you think, yeah, that makes sense, but then you'll go nuts with it. Wilson connects the oral satisfaction of consuming food with the desire to climb mountains, and the circular shape of UFOs to the warmth of the first circuit. Accordingly, some 85% of people suffer from bad first-circuit imprinting as a result of traumatic hospital births and bad childhood upbringing, leaving them in what is basically a permanent state of first-circuit withdrawal from war, crime, and existential angst, lodging them in a permanent mental state of emergency. In this state, people cannot, quote, be able to observe, judge, or decide anything very accurately. Portraying our modern world as a kind of waking nightmare, we can look back to the Gnostics. a very widespread sect within the early days of Christianity. The Gnostics famously believed that the material world was created by a malevolent false god known as the Demiurge, a reality which must be awakened from. Looking to the east, the Buddhist view of life is similar. The statement that life is dukkha is often translated as meaning suffering, but could more accurately be described as a sense of dissatisfaction arising from physical and mental pain, loss associated with change, and the crushing weight of existential dread. The goal of Buddhism is to escape this dreadful reality of reincarnation and dukkha, and ultimately reach the state of nirvana. Within Prometheus Rising, we're aiming to become more knowledgeable of our minds so we can change our overall perception of reality and catch glimpses of the unedited world behind all of the conditioning of all of our circuits, which is analogous to the objectives of Gnosticism and Buddhism. Naturally, the familiarity of the mother imprinting gradually extends to other material as the subject grows older, becoming the tribe. It is by this means that animals are able to survive in larger and larger groups. Consequently, banishment from the tribe was not only a severance between you and your family, friends, possessions, and spiritual authority of your ancestors' land, but most importantly, the destruction of the comfort safety zone established by the oral biosurvival circuit. The first circuit bond of tribal families in antiquated society has been dismantled by regrouping of society over the centuries, with gradual industrialization bringing the biosurvival bond of warmth and comfort to presently take the form of money. As for the physical aspects of the first circuit, it is located partly within the autonomic nervous system, the intricate network within the body responsible for a number of crucial involuntary processes. It is also present in the brainstem, which controls similar automatic life-sustaining processes. To change early imprinting of the first circuit, it is best to look at it from a purely physical perspective, mainly in breathing and posture. By performing certain breathing exercises, you can greatly change your physical response to first circuit anxiety. That's the reason why breathing is so important to meditation, and why it serves as the first stepping stone of yoga toward reaching the Eastern concepts of the higher consciousness. Wilson claims that, with an anxious first circuit, the other 7 circuits are shut down until the threat is gone. In any brain programming or brainwashing, one must be reduced to this state first. While it is cliché to complain about how much time the younger generation spends on their phones, you have to wonder to what extent the effects of doom scrolling are impacting the average person today. I would wager that the extent of the biosurvival anxiety propped up by perpetual exposure to rage and conflict, and the attempt to smooth over such anxieties by consuming enormous amounts of media, has led to a degree of existential dread stronger to the average person today than in that of 1983. To conclude with the first circuit, let's hear a quote cited by the primatologist Ray Carpenter. Imagine that you are a monkey, and you're running along a path past a rock and unexpectedly meet face to face another animal. Now before you know whether to attack it, to flee it, or to ignore it, you must make a series of decisions. Is it monkey or non-monkey? If non-monkey, is it pro-monkey or anti-monkey? If monkey, is it male or female? If female, is she interested? If male, is it adult or juvenile? If adult, is it of my group or some other? You have about 1/5 of a second to make all these decisions, or you could be attacked. Next up is the anal emotional territorial circuit. This one is a bit newer than the first circuit, having evolved maybe 500 million to 1 billion years ago, when vertebrates first started competing over territory. Whereas the oral biosurvival circuit was associated with the brainstem, this one is all about the thalamus. Not the automatic nervous system, but the muscles. The first circuit is to the mother as the second circuit is to the father. This circuit comes into place when the infant stands up and starts walking around for the first time, taking up more and more autonomy and agency, now in possession of the ability to physically influence other people. Now in the bare essentials of societal interaction, our toddler discovers their place in the dominance hierarchy, the pecking order. If someone is invading your space, this creates a first circuit response in biosurvival anxiety, whether it be physical space or ideological headspace. The second circuit will respond in tandem to this first circuit-based territorial flare-up. And on the subject of territory, this is where it's time to talk about poop. Us primates know how to say what territory belongs to who by marking it with our feces. In Dante's Inferno, Dante would write of how his political opponents were being punished in hell, including a punishment in which they were submerged in a river of fecal material. As a way of articulating aggression, monkeys throw poop at each other. One time, a chimpanzee capable of using sign language indicated displeasure at scientists and other chimps by forming signs for saying, "shit scientist" or "shit chimp." As you'll know, in languages around the world, we use a lot of ass dialogue. Up your ass, asshole, something looking ass, asshat, shithead, shithole, piece of shit, you're full of shit, etc. A high-ranking general of the Napoleonic Wars, Pierre Cambron, refused to surrender to the British at Waterloo simply by responding, merde. A petard is a 16th century bomb designed to destroy small fortifications, the name of which originates from the Middle French for to fart. Individuals with a strong imprint of the Second Circuit are physically imposing, powerful, muscular people, many of whom become bodybuilders or weightlifters. Societies typically allocate this population to fight as warriors, or serve in the military, to make good use of their predisposition. The Second Circuit is also the circuit most people use in politics, where they act in a certain way to affect their status within the group. Take a look at this diagram. The east-west axis is the first circuit of approach and withdrawal, while the north-south axis is of dominance and submission. To reiterate, with positive first circuit imprinting, you focus energy on going toward the good stuff, and with negative first circuit imprinting, you focus energy on going away from the bad stuff. The second circuit adds the dominance-submission axis. Our friend in the bottom left saying, "Mommy, take me home," is indicating that he is retreating, and simultaneously looking for help from an outside source. The bottom right character is also being submissive, asking for help, but is still advancing by trying to figure out what to do. The guy on the top left says, "I give orders here," so he's focusing on getting rid of something, the thing he doesn't like, but he's still acting dominantly. And as for the last character, he's comfortable and dominant. He tells other people it's safe, advancing with authority. Wilson makes an effort to point out the universality of this little chart in the context of the various different personality tests of the world. Extroversion, introversion, whatnot, they all basically come down to this. And with the 4 quadrants of this graph, there is a comparison to be made with the medieval medicinal theory of humorism. Bilious, sanguinary, choleric, and phlegmatic, or as Wilson develops, the 4 basic life scripts. I'm okay, you're not okay. I'm okay, you're okay. I'm not okay, you're not okay. And I'm not okay, you're okay. These 4 quadrants can be interpreted in a number of different ways, relating to personality and affiliation. So that's the second circuit, meek versus bold, territory, your monkey brain that wants to throw poop. Now let's get into a higher chunk of the mind. The time-binding semantic circuit, or just the semantic circuit, is said to be 100,000 years old, although I've seen it cited elsewhere as being 4 to 5 million years old. Being the newest of the first 3 circuits, it is often overwritten by the biosurvival circuit and the emotional territorial circuit. When they override this third circuit, people abandon objectivity as they internally vindicate their thought process in accordance with approach-withdrawal, dominance-submission. And, while not as, per se, powerful as the first 2, the third circuit is very important and influential, as it's all about language, articulation, and above all, symbols. This entire book is an exercise in third circuit thought, as we're creating a map of human consciousness. It's called the time-binding semantic circuit because once you start to form the basis of a calendar, once the caveman marks down certain symbols to represent days, moons, he can understand and manifest time, such that he can account for the past, present, and future. This is the point in consciousness where we reach the human mind, with tools and symbols being passed down through generations, and the start of history. The definition of symbol here applies to words, art, religion, tools, ideas, memes, concepts, etc. As many people have observed before, the words "I'm speaking to you" have no real intrinsic meaning. To someone who only knows how to speak Hungarian, they would appear as a bunch of garbled mouth sounds. But it's through the semantic circuit that we prescribe meaning to symbols like words, and through the semantic circuit that we can achieve comprehension of language. Oh, and that's why it's called the semantic circuit, because semantics is the study of the meaning of symbols in language. This is the first circuit that goes beyond a binary. And while we have that quadrant between the first 2 circuits, the effect of the third circuit can be infinitely abstracted down. If we're going to keep going with this graph, the semantic circuit will look like a kind of z-axis. And with that, we've got 3 dimensions and entered the realm of Euclidean geometry. Euclidean geometry functions as the perception of how the first 3 circuits work in tandem to correlate the contents of the brain. Hence why all the spooky Lovecraftian stuff brings up non-Euclidean geometry, violating the internal logic of the most crucial structures of our brain. It feels inherently anti-human. As for its location, the time-binding circuit is in the left cortex, one of the newer evolutionary additions to the physical brain. For the purpose these instruments serve in creating symbols. People with extreme third circuit imprinting will have big heads because they have a big cortex. The stereotypical third circuit heavy imprint being the stock evil geniuses. Take a look at these circuit homunculuses drawn to portray extreme imprinting in different people. Actual geniuses are those who momentarily reach the second highest circuit, the meta-programming circuit, and come back down to express their discovery through the third circuit. The revelation is often something that will upset the status quo, aka the second circuit territorial headspace of the tribe, and result in persecution, banishment, or execution of the genius. Located in the neocortex, breasts, and genitalia, the 30,000-year-old fourth circuit is the moral socio-sexual circuit. It is imprinting during puberty, but is majorly imprinted during one's first sexual experiences. William Masters and Virginia Johnson were two scientists who pioneered a lot of research on human sexuality throughout the 1950s, 60s, and onwards. In one case, the source of a man's impotence was discovered after they learned that, when he was in the back of the car about to have sex for the first time, a policeman shined his flashlight on him. In an especially vulnerable state, the experience traumatically impacted itself onto his fourth circuit. In a similar vein, anxiety or comfort is, by accident, imprinted in the nursing period of the first circuit. Emotional domination or submission is, by accident, imprinted in the toddling period of the second circuit. And symbolic dexterity or stupidity is, by accident, imprinted during the learning environment period of the third circuit. By accident, the first thing to arouse a person will have tremendous impact on how their sexual desires form. The moral socio-sexual circuit is the parent personality, which is not only trying to convey information using symbols as a means of affecting themselves, like the third circuit, but is now trying to affect the imprinting of their children and future human genealogical development, in what is the programming of morality. After having children, you use much less of your third circuit as you start using much more of your fourth circuit. This is why people who do not have children, or at least do not devote a significant amount of their time to raising their children, often happen to have perverse sexual tendencies as well as a disproportionate amount of historical achievement. They were able to focus more on refining their third circuit. This circuit is the focus of a significant amount of attention during rituals in various cultures, such as bar mitzvahs, baptisms, weddings, and the Masonic ceremony of raising, wherein the morality of the society is enforced onto the circuit. This morality is created in reference to the sexual taboos of the society, which despite varying greatly from culture to culture, are alike in the fact that every single culture possesses them. Sexual morality will create the circumstances leading to the selected reproduction, inheritance, genetic drift, and future evolution, hence the power of local taboos, at which point Circuit 3 overrides the influence of Circuit 4. Okay, now let's see what a graph of this new socio-sexual circuit will look like. A represents sexual things that the individual enjoys, and B represents sexual things that the individual does not enjoy. The top half, they like. The bottom half, they don't like. To the left, there's socially bad sex, and to the right, there's socially good sex. If they lean toward A1B1, they're normal. If they lean toward A2B2, they're neurotic. And if they lean toward A3B3, they're a pervert. These first four circuits manage our traditional societies and effectively ensure continued existence of the species. Insects have a four-stage cycle too. Egg, larva, chrysalis, adult, which they repeat again and again and again and again, and only achieve any kind of evolution through the gradual biological process over the course of millions of years. These first circuits do, in effect, robotize us. A quote from Robert A. Heinlein, author of Stranger in a Strange Land and Starship Troopers. A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an invasion, butcher a hog, design a building, con a ship, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve an equation, analyze new problems, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects. The antique circuits are genetically conservative. They only ensure survival of the species. For future progress, we must look to the latter four circuits. Robert Anton Wilson believed that if the majority of the population were to access the fifth circuit, then humanity would ascend into a new being, analogous to the transformation from primitive primates to our current state. If it were portrayed as another axis, the fifth circuit would be a sliding axis between love and hate. This is when the nervous system takes absolute control over the rest of the body, and all sensation feels blissful. Alternatively, it is a hellish, bad trip. Going off of information from cave paintings, it is perhaps 30,000 years old. Unlike the first 4 circuits, a smaller percentage of people get to the 5th. If it is reached, it's typically done late in life, and done so using deliberate effort. There are means of reaching this circuit. One way is through yogic pranayama breathing, which is defined by Hindu philosopher Patanjali as the 4th limb of Ashtanga yoga. Tantric sex, sensory deprivation, social isolation, severe shock, and smoking weed can activate this circuit. And I should note that there will be some discussion of potentially illegal substances in this book, and that this is not a suggestion to take anything which may be detrimental to your health or your safety where you're living. Circuit 5, the holistic neurosomatic circuit, is typically reached through nightmarish difficulty. Gopi Krishna was in an intense negative neurosomatic state for many years before he reached the good part of Circuit 5, and felt near death on many occasions. Purportedly, Nikola Tesla went through a similar difficult schizoid state in his youth, only to come out enlightened. St. John of the Cross called it the dark night of the soul, while today Christian scientists call it chemicalization. Fifth Circuit activity is present in much of faith healing. When a guru is able to heal a cripple through contact alone, or why in shamanic traditions firewalkers are able to walk over fire. There is a general trend of each circuit superseding the previous one, which it does apply to the neurosomatic circuit. Problems from the 4th circuit make you feel guilty, problems from the 3rd circuit confuse you, problems from the 2nd circuit intimidate you, and problems from the 1st circuit make you feel bad. Consciousness of the 5th circuit instantly gets rid of all of these problems. Whatever ailment you had can be cured, whatever emotional squabble you were in can be neutered, whatever confusion you were in can be made clear, and whatever guilt you had can be resolved. This sounds kooky and supernatural, but Wilson asserts that the incredible effects of the 5th circuit can be explained empirically through endorphin neurotransmitters. When the 3rd circuit was discovered, it was viewed with a similar magical inclination, with the ancient Egyptians perceiving the innovation of speech and writing as being the direct divine intervention from the god of the moon, Thoth. Circuit 5 is the next step referred to by many mystics. It's the next big evolutionary stage humanity must go through in order to cease reliance on the antiquated early circuits and reach a state of post-hominid tranquility. The later works of Beethoven, especially the 6th Symphony, can cause a neurosomatic response with those properly in tune. Writing on the hypothetical creation of a magic theater which would provoke a 5th circuit response in the audience, Wilson envisions an environment of extreme blissful sensation assaulting every sense. The audience member would be massaged with computerized body relaxers to placate 1st circuit anxieties, ingest stimulant drugs superior to even the aesthetic effects of cocaine, ecstasy, or marijuana, and view pornography projected onto every space within the room. An idea which, thankfully, no one on Twitter has ever thought of doing. And elaborate as such an environment may sound, the holistic bliss of the neurosomatic circuit has potential in everyone's brains. It just usually takes a significant devotion to reach through yogic pranayama practices and real-world assistance from a meditative expert. After that, you've got the collective neurogenetic circuit, the 6th circuit. This one can be seen as accessing information from the level of individual neurons of the ancient nervous system, wherein RNA has an exchange with DNA, creating an ancestral consciousness. DNA-RNA is seen here as an organism which contains all of the natural selection of your ancestors, and as a result, the residue of the decisions that ultimately led to you. A metaphor for the situation could be that life is an elaborate prosthetic limb for DNA. It's just one big organism, hence why it's called the collective neurogenetic circuit. In this sense, your ancestors live on in you, as you will live on in your children. This enormous web of experience is referred to as a meta-entity. An individual ant has no idea what it's doing in relation to the broader anthill. It's just going off of hardwired DNA. The bee doesn't know what's going on. It's just following the instructions left in its DNA by its ancestors. The anthill and the beehive would be considered the meta-entities. The ant is to the anthill, as the human is to the biosphere. Wilson believes that once the majority of the population becomes conscious of the 6th circuit, people will be able to understand the trajectory of their own gene pool, consciously manipulate the direction the entire biosphere is going in, and be able to ultimately bring the biosphere outside Earth and make humanity a multi-planetary species. As for what it takes to actually achieve 6th circuit awareness, not many have done it. Reaching this kind of neurogenetic chronicle can be done through strong hallucinogens like LSD or DMT. The infamous clockwork elves perceived during DMT trips could be seen as analogous to these neurogenetic architects formed over the course of millions of years of natural selection, and the experience of people seeing their ancestors millennia back being the activation of the holistic neurogenetic circuit. This circuit was discovered around the relatively recent past, and is associated with concepts of reincarnation, immortality, and past lives. It was called the Vision of Pan by the ancient Greeks, the Great Tao by the Chinese, and the Atman consciousness by the Hindus. This is the ancestral bubble Jung wrote of as the Great Unconscious, and the place where his famous archetypes dwell. It's the Akashic record in Theosophy, Dr. Stanislaus Grof's phylogenetic unconscious, or the theory that the biosphere of this planet is one big intelligent organism, developed by the biologists Margulis and Lovelock in their Gaia hypothesis. Scientifically, the sixth circuit lies in the genetic archives activated by stimulating antihistone proteins, which sends responses in your brain down to the very roots of your DNA, the progenitor of all life capable of evolution. And although it is difficult to access, the sixth circuit has had influence on human development. Many evolutionary scientists have had these neurogenetic experiences, prominent among them being the Darwinian Jesuit priest Pierre de Chardin. On Beethoven's desk, written in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics as well as in English, was the statement, "I am he that was, and is, and shall be." The quote comes from the ancient Egyptian Book of the Dead, written around 1550 BC, and you can see that kind of neurogenetic sixth circuit connection, with the implication being that Beethoven had reached sixth circuit consciousness. There's a lot of Beethoven here. Robert Anton Wilson really likes him. It's worth noting that Timothy Leary and Robert Anton Wilson viewed the position of the 6th and 7th circuit differently. They had them flipped around between each other, and what Wilson called metaprogramming, Leary called the neuroelectric system, but here we'll obviously be going off Wilson's theory of the model. Like the 6th circuit, the 7th circuit has been known by esoteric groups which have given it their own names. According to the Gnostics, it's the soul. According to the Chinese, it's the no-mind. According to the Tibetan Buddhists, the white light of the void. According to the Hindus, it's the Shiva Darshana. According to the Gurdjieff, it's the true intellectual center. The youngest of the circuits, the meta-programming circuit, is the awareness of the infinite possible programming of one's own programming. The brain being aware of the brain. This is the Drost effect, where a picture loops endlessly into itself again and again and again. Think of the infinity of it like this. Everyone knows the feeling of feeling small against the rest of the universe, but that's only the case physically. Our minds have the ability to ponder the universe, and in that sense, we can contain the universe by comprehending it. It's like this. You create an entity in your mind and wire it to other awarenesses, which expand upon themselves and evolve their associations, and through this you receive incredible insights and connections which would have been impossible before. According to Alfred Korzybski, one way to make the 7th circuit stronger was through the study of mathematics. Wilson put it this way. As soon as you think of your mind as mind to the first, and the mind which contemplates that mind as mind to the second, and the mind which contemplates mind to the second contemplating mind to the first as mind to the third, you are well on your way to metaprogramming awareness. The 7th circuit is the use of mathematics in explaining mathematics, using language to explain language. Located in the frontal lobes, understanding the 7th circuit can be kind of tricky. Unlike the previous 6, the 7th isn't a very rigid component. It's malleable. It's simultaneously the soul and the void, because it can be everything and nothing. Whenever you take on any archetype, activate any of the circuits, that both is and isn't a dimension of the 7th circuit at work. It's a bit paradoxical, and I find it hard to understand, but the writing on the metaprogramming circuit acknowledges this. It happens in both linguistics and mathematics because it happens in consciousness itself. Language and math are just models of consciousness. Mind is a tool invented by the universe to see itself, but it can never see all of itself, for much the same reason that you can't see your own back without mirrors. Or as Alan Watts liked to say, because the tongue ultimately cannot taste the tongue. Our understanding of the universe is flawed. We know that our minds are flawed too, so how can we know in what ways that our understanding of the universe is flawed? We know our limitations, but the thing that's defined these limitations is, as we admit, limited. How can we trust that analysis? It's an infinite regress, And once we understand that there are infinite aspects to every little thing, and as you go about mapping and modeling your perception of the world, done so on an enormous scale of all your personal models and maps, in what the Hindus called Shiva Darshana, you realize that with infinite possibilities to your perception of reality, you can try to make a better, more optimistic perception of reality, which is what the book is ultimately about. Circuit 8 is the final circuit, and the shortest chapter on a circuit in the book. Throughout the first 7, we've been going over how the contents of the brain could possibly be modeled, but on this last circuit, the non-local quantum circuit, everything in the universe gets drawn in too. Bell's theorem states that every single atom in existence is in an instantaneous communication with every other atom. The universe must be a system, and no matter how far apart any element is within the system will function as a whole system. This cannot be done through energy, since this interaction is instantaneous, faster than light, and according to our understanding of it, energy can't go faster than light. We've got 2 potential answers to the question of Bell's theorem. One, from Dr. Edward Harris Walker, is that every atom of the universe is held together through consciousness, resulting in a model of reality built off some kind of pantheism or panpsychism. The alternate solution, brought by Dr. Jack Sarfati, contends that the universe is held together by information, using an analogy of computers inside other computers, in which the physical computer, the hardware, is localized, and the information, the software, is non-localized. Access to the 8th circuit can be reached through near-death and out-of-body experiences, resulting in a feeling where the mind rapidly reels from information ranging from galaxies to atoms, at the natural conclusion of consciousness, the cosmic mind. The interconnectedness of circuits 5 to 7 is nothing compared to circuit 8, where the mind reaches what can probably best be called omniscience. As Wilson put it, it is hard to avoid hyperbole when talking of such matters, but everything one can associate with the idea of oneness with God, or oneness with everything, is part of what is experienced in the vistas, beyond space-time, of this metaphysiological circuit. Mystics stammer, gibber, and rave incoherently in trying to discuss this. Beethoven says it all for them, without words, in the 4th movement of the 9th Symphony. The words of Schiller's Ode to Joy, which Beethoven set to this virtually superhuman music, are a linear 3rd circuit map conveying only a skeleton key to the multi-level meanings of the 8th circuit language of the melodic construction itself, which spans all consciousness from primitive biosurvival to metaphysiological cosmic fusion. Wheels within wheels within wheels. Dr. Sarfati's computers within computers within computers. Consciousness or information perceived as coherent intelligence, expanding to infinity in all directions. So to summarize, here is a diagram depicting the circuits as a cyclical activity, constrained to the first 4, and here is a diagram depicting the circuits as a linear evolution. Circuit 1 is of primitive organisms, and approach withdrawal. Circuit 2 is of territory, dominant submission. Circuit 3 is of symbol manipulation, communication. Circuit 4 of socio-sexual domesticity, where the majority of people stop going up the ladder. Circuit 5 of neurosomatic rapture, which will ultimately lead to space migration. Circuit 6 of neurogenetic vision, which will ultimately lead to immortality. Circuit 7 of metaprogramming, which will ultimately lead to intelligence intensification. And Circuit 8 of metaphysiological cosmic vision, which will ultimately lead to the unknown. This was an outline of Robert Anton Wilson's 8-circuit theory as presented in Prometheus Rising, but there's many other interesting ideas in the book which I didn't cover here. Most chapters have exercises at the end of them too, and I would recommend that, if this was interesting to you, you look into the book more, as reading these other chapters and thinking about these exercises makes for a much more comprehensive understanding of the book than what you're going to get from me. For instance, the most well-known exercise involves looking for quarters on the floor, and you do this at first thinking, I'm not more likely to find the quarters than I would otherwise be, I'll just notice them because I'm consciously looking for them. And then you'll do it again thinking, I'm trying to manifest the quarters into existence through my mind, and see if there's any difference in the time it takes you to find a quarter. It's been a second since I went through this book, and I still haven't found any quarters. And I'll mention, you do not need to do every exercise, as some of them can be pretty strange. Before you leave, I really need to stress that throughout this video, I relied on Ali Ward's VR Mystery School readings and explanation to help grasp this book, with much of this video coming from his insight. So remember, there's a link to that series in the description, a link to a PDF of Prometheus Rising, as well as all my other sources. Thanks for watching.